Good afternoon and welcome to Devils in Red 59. My name is Steve and today is Wednesday, the 22nd of April. What a fantastic game the other night. We went to Stamford Bridge as a weakened side, and I think the lads really put in a good performance that night. Obviously, we'd got Heaven and Mazraoui playing as the two centre halves, and I don't think they let the squad down at all. Chelsea at times they did bring the game on to us, but I think in the main, our defence and the midfield played extremely well. I mean, Mainu had a fantastic game as well. But obviously, what we're going to be talking about today is obviously Chelsea, Newcastle. They could be in the market for a new manager. Carrick, his position is grown stronger for the job at Manchester United. Tuccini at Real Madrid, his price has been set, and Anderson and Baleba are still a high priority for Manchester United. But let's start with Chelsea. Obviously, the result they got against us the other day obviously has done a lot of damage where the manager was concerned, and obviously they played. Was it last night and lost against Brighton 3-0. And I think that's where all the damage has been done. You could quite clearly see at the end of the game the Chelsea players, they gathered down the end of the pitch where all the Chelsea fans were stood, and they just gazed into the crowd. I mean, they weren't clapping the fans as they usually would for attending an away game. They just stood there memorised and looking into space, enough to say, what can we do? So I think with all the reports and that's coming out today, stuff on Sky Sports indicating that the Chelsea manager, it's very unlikely that he's going to get the sack before the FA Cup game. But who knows after that? I certainly don't think he's going to be there. Uh, if by the end of the season, certainly by the start of next season, I think his card has been marked and there's going to be big outgoings by the look of it at Chelsea. And I mean, over the last few years, they've already spent in the region of about 2 billion. Um, all these are the young players under a certain age that Ineos have sort of implemented as well that they want to bring in. They should take a good look at Chelsea and actually see what it's done to Chelsea. And the rumours are that Chelsea for next season are possibly going to be looking at bringing in more established, mature uh, players that can hit the ground running, and they've got the knowledge and the experience at the back of them to push them forward as a club. I think they've realised now they can't totally rely on all these young ones. There's also talk at Garnacho. He may be moved on as well as a few more of the young ones. So that's a situation with Chelsea. Also, things flying around in the media at the moment is about Eddie Howe at Newcastle. Newcastle have had a really bad season. I mean, they got through so far in the Champions League, but I think with a club like Newcastle, playing 2 games a week and then the Carabao Cup games and the FA Cup games, it's proven to be too much for them, especially with the squad that they've got, because people are saying they've got an ageing squad. So, again, this summer, I think there's going to be a lot of the older players, sort of 28, 29, 30, that's going to be moved on from Newcastle. And there's a strong indication that Eddie Howe may also be moved on as well, and a new manager may have to come in there. So I think come the summer, based on the fact of what's going around at the moment, I mean, there could be one or two clubs in the market for managers. It's come out as well that Nagelsmann has obviously put his name forward to Real Madrid, saying he would have an interest in taking over the manager's position at Real Madrid. So it looks like we can write him off the list. And obviously, with what Carrick's doing at Manchester United and the results he's getting, I think now it's only going to be a matter of time before they announce him as the new manager. Another win and perhaps a draw or a couple of wins out the remaining 5. And I think Manchester United and Ineos will announce Michael Carrick as being the new manager of Manchester United, or the new head coach of Manchester United, because Manchester United have also released they can't wait until the end of the World Cup, end of July, to appoint a new manager. So, it would be like the beginning of August before a new manager come in, and that's the excuse and the PR that they're throwing down to us fans. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that Michael Carrick is going to get the job. I think they'll just wait for that total confirmation that we have got the Champions League, which I'm sure we will do. So I don't know what your views are on, obviously, Chelsea and Newcastle are not really our concern, but obviously where Michael Carrick's concerned, how do you feel about him if he gets a job, which is it's looking like he will. Different people have got mixed opinions about it, saying that they don't think he's experienced enough and he's too young and so forth. I've heard all sorts of stuff. But, realistically, Michael Carrick has come in, took over this squad, and he's managed to get something out of them, which is results. It hasn't been the prettiest football at times. I mean, he did show in the Manchester City and the Arsenal game the type of football that they are capable of playing, but it's maintaining that level of football, which in a lot of ways they haven't done, but they have also managed to come together and battle out results, whether it's a win or a draw, So he has managed to get something out of those players that are not his players, the Ten Hag's players and Ruben Amorim's players, and they were two experienced coaches and couldn't get the best out of them. But Michael Carrick seems to have done something to get the best out of him, So if he does get the job, I think we've got to give him our backing and see what he does next season with some of the players that perhaps he has an input with Jason Wilcox and so forth that he wants to bring in, as to whether that changes his style of football a little bit. I think it's one of them scenarios that, when he did come in as interim coach, he's looked at the squad and thought, well, the only way I'm going to get the best out of these is playing something that they're more used to, which is a 4-3-3, and put the individual players back in their natural positions, which obviously, has brought a bond between players and manager and coaching staff, which is what the aim was from Ineos when Carrick came in, was to try and get us Champions League football, and it looks like he's managed to do that. So you've got to give Carrick a lot of credit for that. And as I say, if he does get the job, then we've got to see what players are bought in next season. We bought in good players last summer, and if we can add to that with 5 or 6 new players, then hopefully, that will help improve our style of football as well. So until that happens, we just got to wait and see and watch, really. One of the midfielders at Real Madrid, Tchouaméni or whatever his name is, apparently Real Madrid in the situation this season where they're going to be building their midfield, and the player has actually spoke to Real Madrid and said, how is that going to impact him if they're going to rebuild the midfield and bring in other players? Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to get the same game time and so forth? And I believe that Real Madrid have set a price on him of 70 million pounds, and obviously Manchester United, by all accounts, have got him very high on the list as a replacement for Casemiro, as a natural number 6, central midfield defender. So, all the reports that are coming out about this player, they're all saying that he would be a good replacement for Casemiro. I believe he's 26 at the moment, coming 27, I think, by the time maybe the season kicks off again in August or stroke September. So, he is over the age bracket that Ineos have previously spoke about, that they want players under 24, but with the experience he can bring, and he was actually the replacement for Casemiro when Casemiro left Real Madrid. So, he's got a lot of experience there, and they have won trophies. So, he could well be that player. um, I think with the Premiership, when we've been looking at the likes of Tonali and so forth, and Bruno G, and many other mentioned players, that are in the region of 80, 90, 100 million, it's quite clear that Ineos don't want to spend that sort of money. So perhaps that's why they're looking at this Real Madrid play with a price tag of 70 million on him. Um, I mean, if it comes to negotiations at Manchester United, do it enter into conversation with Real Madrid about it? I mean, the possibility is that we would, probably get him cheaper than the 70 million. We'd probably get him for around about 60 with the add-ons. I mean, if you cast your mind back to last summer when Manchester United were valuing Garnacho at about 70 million, and I mean, he ended up going for 40. So I think all clubs really, when they know they've got an interest in one or two of their players, they all start off by setting the price high, and then by the time it comes to a deal done with somebody, usually that price has come down in a lot of ways. So we'll have to wait and see whether they do go for him. But it seems to be kicking off now since the last game against Chelsea. I mean, there's a lot more coming out the club about, they don't think there's any managers there, and the managers are there. They don't want to wait till the end of the World Cup. They want a manager that they can have in from day one, so he can have the input with new signings, training, and obviously be there for the pre-season to obviously try and knit these new players together that's coming in. I mean, we've got a big percentage of our team apparently that's going to be involved in the World Cup. So the chances are a lot of them are not going to be there for the pre-season. They'll be having their holidays and probably won't come back till probably the back end of the first week of August, before they get to start training again. So obviously Carrick, if he's going to be the new coach, will be obviously doing his pre-season training with players that haven't been involved in the World Cup, and of hopefully the new signings. But it's very important for Manchester United, whatever signings they're bringing in this year, to get them in as early as possible. We need them all in for pre-season. We don't want to be bringing one or two in for pre-season, and then we're hanging about, waiting for another two or three players that might not come in till towards the end of August, because obviously it's not giving them a pre-season with the new teammates. It's not giving Carrick or whoever the manager is the time to train with them and bond with them and so forth. So it is very important that we get them in nice and early this season, which I'm sure, because of the World Cup, we will try and bring in the majority of them before then. Um, Obviously, on our midfield targets, albeit this Real Madrid player has suddenly jumped to the top, and it's coming out from several outlets that Manchester United are quite big on him. Um, it has been also said that Anderson and Baleba are still on the list of midfielders, and they're still quite high on there. But rumours going around still is obviously that Anderson is pretty much a done deal with Manchester City, but that's been the case for the last few weeks, realistically. So we'll have to wait and see what Ben Jacobs has got to say about it in more depth tomorrow. And hopefully he'll be able to give us a bit more up-to-date information on it as to whether that's the case, or whether United still stand a chance of getting Anderson. But if that price tag's pushing towards 100 million, I can't see Manchester United paying that. I mean, if they can get this Real Madrid player for 60 million, and then they can bring in another two players for maybe another 50, 60 million, and then you're probably looking at 110 million being spent on the midfield, and then it's a question of, do we still bring in a left winger, or we're going to stick with Cunha and having Dorgu back, maybe utilise Dorgu on the left wing as well, because obviously in the 3 games he played under Carrick, he proved to be very impressive. So, he's got something there as a winger, and they may well just decide to stick with that and maybe look at a left or a right back. And also with Bayern Dare apparently going to be leaving this summer, we've still got to bring in a number 2 goalkeeper to Le Mans. And I know there's talk of Onana coming back and saying he wants to fight for his position in the club, but I don't think for 1 minute that Manchester United are going to accept him back. I mean, if he comes back to Carrington, I think all they'll be doing is working on trying to find him a club and get his wages off the book as quick as possible. The same as Rashford. I mean, it's being said now that Real Madrid don't want to pay the money for Rashford. He hasn't been as an impressive in this last month as he was before. So there's a possibility that they may want him to come back to Manchester United. But is that just cat and mouse that Barcelona are playing with Manchester United to try and get his price down from the initial £26 million, €30 million? But I do believe that Newcastle have shown an interest in Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford will be 29, I believe, when the season kicks off in the summer. So, he's not the youngest of wingers for Newcastle to bring in, but I think, if anything, it might just be an attraction on his price tag of £26 million more than anything. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that one as to what goes on with Newcastle and whether they make a move on Marcus Rashford. But Marcus Rashford's always said, he wants to be with Barcelona. He wants to stay in Spain with Barcelona. And previous reports have said that Barcelona, for the last few weeks now, have reached agreements with him on personal terms, and also his management team, which I believe is his brother. But until such time as the two clubs speak, then nothing's going to move any further on that. So, but as I say, I think Barcelona are just playing cat and mouse with Manchester United to try and get that price down. Will Manchester United come down in price a bit just to get him off the books, or will they take the gamble of him coming back to Carrington after the World Cup? I don't think they're going to want to integrate him into the team again, because obviously they wanted him out last season and the season before. He had his spell at Villa. Then last season, when he came back for summer training, he eventually got a move to Barcelona on loan, and I just don't think they want to integrate him back in and run the risk of him corrupting some of the young players and other players that we've got, the way it came out that he felt he did do before. So, I think it's Barcelona's tactics more than anything. But as I say, United have got to stand firm on it and say, well, okay, if you don't want him, we'll have him back, because we'll get 26 million from him from somewhere. And if Manchester United make it known to Rashford that he's not going to play in the first side at some point throughout the summer, he's going to want to go and play football, whether that's in the English Premiership or whether he looks at Italy maybe, or somewhere else in Spain, or even the Bundesliga, Germany. I think he will want to play football. He's not going to want to sit on the bench or train with the reserve side. And I think he knows from last season, how the bomb squad was itemised to not being allowed to train with the first side and so forth. So I don't think he'll want to put himself in that type of embarrassment and run the risk of not playing football. So, I think something will be agreed, and Barcelona will eventually do the deal, hopefully. The same as Onana, get him out the club, get his wages off. He's probably a really nice guy in all fairness, but his goalkeeping ability, I don't think he's done very well over in Turkey either, because otherwise, they'd be looking at trying to do a deal to keep him on, and I don't think there's any interest there. So, you know, whether he comes back and he looks at maybe going over to Qatar or somewhere like that, where he can get decent money to finish off his career. And I think there was something that was reported a week or two ago about there was somebody in Europe that might be interested in him, but whether that was an outright purchase or whether it's a loan, and then obviously they're looking at Manchester United paying a percentage of his wages. I don't really know. So yeah, so that's really most of the news up to date. I'd like to thank everybody for watching all the previous videos, and it's very important, please, for you to smash a like and subscribe, and please share the video. And don't forget, in May we've got our competition coming up for free t-shirts and free baseball caps for Devils in Red 59. The questions will be asked on a Friday, and obviously the winners will be announced each Sunday, and obviously then the t-shirts and the baseball caps will be sent out to the individuals that have won it. So please smash a like, subscribe, get in the comments and share the video, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you very much.